Soul is a movie that is currently streaming on Disney Plus, and obviously it's the latest Pixar film. This is the second Pixar film to come out in 2020. Onward obviously came out earlier this year. Wasn't a big fan of that movie. I thought it was just okay. Soul is a movie though that's been drumming up hype. Obviously it has a lot of positive reviews. I had no idea what it was about, honestly. So when I give you this premise, just know I had no idea that this was the premise. So it's about a musician played by Jamie Foxx. He's a musician who obviously loves music, but he feels as though his passion is dwindling. And so begins a existential journey. Not going to spoil what happens, but at the 15-minute marker, there was something that happened where it was, in my eyes, a pratfall, and I started laughing. And within a minute later, I realized, oh no, that was not a pratfall. Holy cow, that was a surprise. That was really good. I'll get to that at the very end of this review after I give my rating and everything, but that took me by surprise. And it's why I'm glad that I had no idea what this movie was about, or, not even knowing the premise, or even more importantly, seeing any trailers. I had not seen a single trailer or TV spot for this movie. And I had no idea Jamie Foxx was in it. Tina Fey's in this too. Here's the thing. I want to talk about the themes and messages of this movie because I think that they are probably the film's greatest asset because they tapped into my mind in such a way that, not many movies have done this year, truth be told. Granted, I haven't seen a couple hundred the way I usually do, but in terms of, new movies. But I have to say, Soul really tapped into that, zeitgeist of, okay, you're passionate about something, but what if your passion is something that you do end up doing as a career? Will you slowly lose interest over the years? Will it slowly become a chore versus something that you're passionate and you love and you always look forward to? That's something I always think about because, obviously with my job, I'm not someone that loves my job, the way a lot of people do. It's passable. It passes the time. It's so that I can do actually in fact, what I love, which is obviously doing film reviews, making a movie. But then I always think about it. I'm like, well, if doing film reviews and making a movie were something that were my main jobs, would I lose interest over those over the years? Would it be something that it no longer something that's fun to do and slowly becomes a chore and I slowly start to not like it as much? Guys, these are themes that Soul tackles. And it's interesting. Yeah, I know that Soul isn't about a filmmaker, it's about a musician, but music and filmmaking are two art forms. And so it's definitely something where if you're passionate about something in life, you can definitely relate to the main character with what he's going through. And for myself, I now am wondering in 30 years from now, is that going to be me? Is it something where that will be me? But the alternative is that obviously with the resolution of the movie is that, well, you know what? You should enjoy things while you can. You should be able to still do passions. And that's why it's important to have hobbies. It's important to be passionate about things because otherwise you're just going through life, just not really even thinking about, what you want to do. And it's important to just kind of think about these things. And that's why I just have to say this also. I hate it when people say animated films are for kid movies, kid movies. And truth be told, I grew up with that mindset. So sometimes I find myself, when I talk about animated movies, say like, oh, kids movie. And it's something that I'm trying to work on because as I've grown up, I've kind of realized, something that's not true. Honestly, animated films, the great ones, in my opinion, are the ones that, first and foremost, they're for adults. Secondly, they're for kids. And the reason why I say that is because as a kid, you're going to watch a movie that's animated. You're going to enjoy the characters. You're going to be like, oh, wow, that's cute. I want that animal, or I want that, that creature. I want it, and I want it in stuffed animal form or, obviously Lego form, whatever the case may be. But then you start thinking about those movies as you grow older and you slowly start revisiting those movies and they honestly have new meaning. For me, an obvious example would be Toy Story Trilogy. Obviously, it's now 4 movies, so it's a quadrilogy, but I saw the 4th one, what was it, like a year or so ago? So I had the mindset I do now, pretty much. But watching the Toy Story Trilogy, like even the 3rd one when it came out 10 years ago, I didn't think about the existential things that were going on in that movie. I thought about, wow, this is entertaining. So I think that as you get older, you slowly start to process things that as a kid, you didn't really get to fully think about. And the reason why I'm saying all this is because Soul is one of those movies. It doesn't reach the heights of the Toy Story series, but that being said, it's dealing with a lot of heady, important, mature things. I think kids might be bored by this movie because, yes, it does have cute characters, but first and foremost, it's a movie that is geared towards adults. And I think that those kids, if they do enjoy it, which I hope that they do, they'll revisit this movie years from now and they'll be like, oh wow, that's good. The reason why I'm focusing so much on the themes and messages is it's self-explanatory. It's a big part of the movie. And tied in with that is the fact that this movie is all about music. And here we go. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, as many of you probably know, they're two of my favorite composers. Might be my favorite composers in terms of film and TV shows. They do such an incredible job. You know, their scores for David Fincher's work is outstanding and probably still my favorite. But their work in Soul really kind of showcases how influential they can be and how they have so much range. I mean, you know, they've done so many adult films over the years that now that they're doing an animated film that's, you know, a studio-based movie, I don't know, that's pretty cool to see that they're working, you know, obviously off-brand. Obviously, they already did the score for Mank, which came out not too long ago, but I think that the score for Soul is probably better than Mank. I don't know, it might be. Animation is already top-notch. I mean, this goes without saying. Pixar has always been the top of their game in terms of digital animation. It's outstanding. It's really effective. Voice acting is good. The standout is obviously Jamie Foxx. He gives a sense of levity to where you really understand where the lead character is coming from. And again, tying in with the themes and messages, it's really effective. What I will say though is that I gotta say some of the negatives, because am I heaping praise on this movie the way a lot of people are? Yes, but again, I do have some issues with this movie. Firstly, although these are themes and messages that really made me think, I think it's kind of unfortunate that after the first 15 minutes, the movie has it where the lead character has, you know, essentially a lot of exposition drop on him by Tina Fey's character. And Tina Fey's character has comedy relief, and I didn't really find it funny. It kind of just landed with a thud. And on top of that, she's giving a lot of exposition of the world. And instead of us visually seeing it, we have to hear it. And on top of that, when we do visually see it, it made me think about how I knew what the end game was going to be. I had time to process with what would happen in the future. The best Pixar movies are the ones that are so fast-paced, that are so breathless in terms of pacing, that you don't have time to think about what will happen. You just go with it. And I think a movie like Soul, unfortunately, didn't land in that category. It landed in, I was able to think about it, and because I was able to think about it, I was able to think about how predictable the outcome was, unfortunately. That being said, predictable varies from person. Your mileage may be different from mine. For me, predictability is something that if it's done very well, I can really appreciate. In this case, it's solidly done, but for a lot of people, it might be something you eat up. It might be something you can, you know, obviously wear like a blanket where it's like, you know, all cozy. But for myself, it just kind of like was a letdown in that category. Again, not a bad movie, but in terms of pacing and overall story, I thought the story kind of faltered. But thankfully, it's mustered up by, you know, beautiful filmmaking overall and just themes and messages that I'm able to latch on to, and I think a lot of other people will as well. And that's why Soul, for me personally, despite having a couple issues here and there, as well as thinking it followed the Pixar formula a little bit too closely, I still would recommend Soul. And that's why, for me personally, I'll be giving a 3.5 out of 5-star rating, which, if there's like a hot sauce rating, gets the good old Texas Pete hot sauce. So, yeah, it's a solid movie. It's on the lesser end of Soul. I mean, not of Soul. It's on the lesser end of Pixar's filmography, but doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it had a couple hiccups here and there, but it's still a movie that I would definitely recommend. And yeah, if you have seen Soul, I'm curious, what did you guys think about the movie? And did the messages and themes resonate with you? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always, don't forget subscription, notification bell, and I'll catch you guys later.